What's going on, guys? It's Ben with liftedimports.com here, and today I wanted to talk to you guys real quick about something that I see a lot of misconceptions about. Now, I'm by no means the be-all end-all expert on this at all. I'm just like a lot of you guys. I'm out here learning every day, trying to pick up more information and just having fun with this stuff as we go. But I want to talk about suspension travel in Subarus. I want to talk about long travel suspension, and I wanted to just share something that I think is kind of a myth among a lot of Subaru owners who seem to think that if they just put a long travel coilover system on their Subaru, that it's just somehow going to now have all this suspension travel. It's going to be like a trophy truck or a rock crawler, when in reality, that's not at all what happens when you install a long travel suspension system. Now, you definitely want as much suspension travel as you can get. That is super vital to off-road performance and capability. But with Subarus, I think it's important to recognize that you've got two portions of your suspension that make suspension travel limited. Now, the first part of that is going to be your axles, right? So your CV axles, so this is the side that goes into the transmission, so the side that goes into the hub, and you have a limited amount of articulation that can take place here. And even if you can get the axle to flex way down into a position that you want, when it's at a super high angle like that, you run the risk of absolutely damaging it. And then, as you can see, there's really not that much flex at all that you have with these axles. There's really not much. That's the first limiting factor in your Subaru's ability to give you a lot of suspension travel. It's going to be your CV axles. Front and rear both are going to 100% limit the amount of distance that your wheel can travel up and down. Now, there are some fixes to this, but for the average person, it's just not going to be feasible. You're going to need to do a lot of custom work, a lot of custom fabrication, a lot of custom part swapping in order to create more articulation with your suspension. So definitely the CV axles are a limiting factor, but there is a kit from Subie Works that allows you to retrofit your Subaru with a set of, I think it's Porsche 940 axles. So basically, it comes with these RCV, like these heavy duty CV axles. They have almost double the amount of angle. You know, it's pretty stark when you look at the different amount of essentially like travel that both CV joints in those have. It's pretty substantial. Now, the downside to that is I think that kit starts at like $2,500 or somewhere in that ballpark. So it's not really a cheap thing at all. And you got to think, if you're running that plus your long travel coilover system, well, right there, you're looking at probably between $1,500 and $2,000 for a low end. I mean, very like bare bones long travel coilover suspension for Subarus. And then you're looking at $2,000 to $2,500 just for the axle conversion. So right out of the gate, you're spending a bare minimum of $4,000. Well, you still haven't solved the next issue that I'm going to bring up, which is your control arms. Now, the control arms are basically what your suspension is connected to the unibody of the Subaru with. I'll put a photo up here so that you guys can kind of see. Now, control arms are going to look a little bit different from year to year and model to model. There's going to be some discrepancy, but Subaru control arms are very susceptible to bushing failure, even at stock height. I've seen a bunch of Subaru control arm bushings just crack and fall apart, even without abuse. Now, when you add in a lot of extra travel and hardcore off-road usage, you can only imagine the amount of additional wear and tear that you're going to put on that. Now, not only are the bushings very susceptible to cracking and tearing, but they have a limited amount of articulation that they can do physically. There's a physical limit to what they can do and how far down they can go before they come into contact with the rest of the subframe of the Subaru. So it's like, if the bushing's not what's stopping you, then you're going to run into that subframe piece, and it's going to stop your suspension. So you basically have like a built-in bump stop there, and it doesn't matter how long your suspension is, that's going to be a limiting factor for sure. So that being said, if you wanted to get even more suspension travel, you're going to have to do the long travel coilovers. You're going to have to do a Porsche axle conversion. Then you're probably going to have to figure out how to custom fabricate some sort of control arm solution. And I mean, I don't know if you're good at that stuff. I'm certainly not. I'd have to pay somebody else to do it. You may be able to get something from a company like TSS Fab. They make a lot of crazy custom tube subframe assemblies for Subarus. But again, you're looking at like, I don't remember how much those cost, but you're probably looking at like $4,000 for a set of subframes from those guys. So right now you're looking at $8,000. I mean, it's cool, but like, I don't have $8,000 that I just want to willy-nilly throw at a Subaru to take it off-road. You know, that's just me. Then you've still got to consider that you've got ABS lines and brake lines that you're going to have to figure out. So you're going to need some sort of extended brake lines, probably going to have to get some custom stainless steel extended brake lines made, or maybe there's somebody that makes something for you. Then you're going to have to figure out whether or not your ABS lines are going to extend that far, and if not, how are you going to solve that issue? Let's say you do all that stuff. Let's say you do all that stuff and you invest all the money that it takes to basically transform your Subaru into something with a ton of suspension travel. Well, you're still limited to the tire size that you can run. So Subarus don't have a low-range T-case the way that like you know, a Jeep does, or the way that a 4Runner does, a Wrangler, 4x4, you know, different pickup trucks and stuff like that. You don't have 4 low. And if you don't have a low range T-case, you really don't have a way to shift into a lower gear set and rotate large tires at low speeds. And that is one of the most crucial things to off-road performance, is being able to have a big tire and then being able to rotate that bigger tire at low speeds without wheel spin. And with Subarus, as you guys know, you kind of have to keep your momentum as you're hitting different obstacles. And that's because we don't have any way to really get those RPMs up without a lot of speed. And that is not really ideal for off-roading at all. And in my opinion, just me personally, I don't think it's worth it to try to chase down tons of suspension travel in a Subaru. It's just not really there, and it's not really something that you're going to glean a lot of benefit from. Now, am I saying that people shouldn't buy aftermarket suspension setups for their Subaru? Absolutely not. There's a lot of benefits for certain people. There are more adjustments that can be dialed in on most long travel coilovers. They can be essentially custom dialed for a specific height. If you need a very specific height, that could be a great way to achieve that. Let's say you are going to be carrying a ton of gear in your car for the weekend and you want to adjust the dampening in the rear to help avoid rear suspension sag. You can absolutely do that with a long travel coilover system. You can also get benefit out of them for things like rally cross and stage rally, and then other types of aggressive driving where there's a lot of, you know, speed and very demanding driving situations. You can absolutely benefit from running a long travel coilover system. You definitely don't want to cheap out on coilovers. You know, I think Raceworks would be my first pick if I was going to install something like that. Again, I think for the average person, chasing down suspension travel isn't going to be what you think it is. It's not that you shouldn't buy them. You just need to go into it with the right expectation. I just would hate for somebody to spend, you know, $3,000, put them on the car, and then go out to the trails with this idea in their head that, wow, now I've got long travel suspension. I'm basically driving a side-by-side. Absolutely not true. Subarus are not built for off-roading. As good as they are, despite the introduction of the wilderness editions, they're really commuter cars that have all-wheel drive. They're not really made for heavy-duty off-road driving. In my opinion, Subarus are just far and above any other, small vehicle that is in their class. They're way above anything else in terms of being able to be taken out on rough roads and camping trips and things like that. But they're absolutely not rock crawlers. They're absolutely not trophy trucks. They're not side-by-sides. You're not going to be doing a lot of crazy hill climbs in them. You're not going to be climbing over boulders. You're not going to be getting yourself out of super deep ditches and things like that. But again, I love them. I've been running these cars forever. Absolutely enjoy them. They're super dependable, reliable. They always start. The Jeep is always in the garage, maybe because I beat on it a little bit harder. But the Subarus, I never have to pull them up in the garage to fix anything. Almost never, unless it's a big issue that needs to get sorted out or just routine maintenance. They're super reliable. Anyways, guys, that's all I got to say about suspension travel on Subarus. Yes, it can be achieved. Do I think it's worth the investment and the time? Probably not. There's better ways that you could spend the high 4 to low 5 figure check that you're going to have to write to really do that correctly. I mean, honestly, for 8 to 10 grand, you could go buy a 4x4 that has all that suspension travel, that has 4 low. Now, I'm not out here trying to push people into abandoning Subarus. I just want to help educate people and make sure that you're not getting something that isn't going to do for you what you need it to do. If you got any questions, make sure you hit the comments below, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined and feeling generous today, and don't hesitate to check out the liftedimports.com website. Lots of good build features on there from people just like us that have built their Subarus for off-road use. Check it out. Shoot us an email on there if you got any questions or comments. Till next time, see you guys out on the trail. Hope you have a wonderful day.